Over 240 games tested. Yeah, you heard that right. I tested, tracked, and tore through every pairing to figure out exactly which of the 4 Gundam Starter Decks is the absolute best one. Now, I've seen the other videos that are already out, and a few other creators have already given their thoughts, and quite honestly, at first, I did agree with their take, but after running the full gauntlet, the results surprised me. Before I drop the answer, we're going to walk through some of the key cards in each deck, and then I'll show you the complete matchup spreadsheet showing all of the games, all of the win rates, the loss rates, and of course, be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Alright, let's get into it. First, let's go over some of the key cards I found in the heroic beginning decks and some of the plays that I found. First, we're going to talk about the card Suletta Mercury. She essentially provides that +2, and in this particular deck, it seems to go a lot further than it does in other decks. Obviously, being paired with her Gundam Aerial Bidon form, it turns this into a 4/6. The best way I've found playing this deck is usually playing it in the control manner, where you're controlling the board and getting fair trades. Obviously, we have one of the best blockers in the game so far. We have Zwart with its 3 in attack. Obviously, you can't kill your opponent with this particular card, but you can trade into most of their units with this card as long as they're suspended. Now, you know we had to talk about our boy Amon-Ra. He pretty much rests any unit in the game so far. Like, your opponent would have to have a paired unit in order for him to like be out of range, turning any of your other units into essentially a kill card. So Amon-Ra is technically a kill card when you see him. Now, as you can see in Starter Deck 1, the boss creatures aren't that strong. Suletta is the strongest, being at a 4/4 and only having a win parity ability that only nukes your opponent's attack power 1 time, which should be very, very good for trades. Again, it's like another control card, but the main boss creature in this whole deck, I want you to pay attention to, it is actually White Base. The White Base is actually a deck that you want to deploy at a very specific time. I usually like to deploy it right when I can play the creature, and obviously when you're playing with this card, you need to make sure that you're trying to get the best token out of it. Usually you find yourself spamming gun tanks, and at that point you're usually winning the game. But if you can constantly deploy the Gundam, see if you can before you're playing other units. It's almost super safe to always constantly just deploy the token. Just deploy the token, deploy the token, deploy the token. This card just puts constant pressure, so your opponent's thinking, do I clear your guys or do I clear the white base? Do I clear your guys or do I clear the white base? I think everyone who's played this game so far can agree that white base is going to be that card for the starter deck meta and maybe into the first meta for the main set here. But this card is actually proven to be the actual boss monster of the deck, more so than Gundam and Aerial. And obviously I gotta bring up one of my favorite cards in the entire game so far. When I first saw this card, I was like, this card is literally one of the best cards in the game. It's Unforeseen Incidents. Just how the game is structured right now, this is probably one of the best trade cards out there because it keeps your unit alive, and that's right now that is a little bit more important. You only get 2 copies here. Use them wisely, get better trades with this card. Alright guys, let's go over the deck Wings of Advance. Now this deck has the best boss monsters out of all of the decks, hands down. If you guys play the beta, you guys understand that Wing Gundam is that dude. He is the him card right now. And of course, Tallgeese is coming in close second. A lot of people have mixed feelings about this because they do have to pay so much more into him and being able to get double swings. And that double swings really maximizes effects that trigger on swing. If you get the Tallgeese with the Zex Marquise, then you're pretty much in good shape. Always, always, always go for the extra draw and the kill. But there is another unit in the game where Zex Marquise can connect to, and usually I go for that play more than the actual Tallgeese play, and that's actually connecting to the Leo, because you get 4 Leos in this deck. Now, the Zex Marquise only puts this to a 4/3, so you can attack it and kill most units, but Leo's going to be generally going away with it. But you're looking for that card draw. Now, obviously, this deck comes with some heaters in here. We have Maganak. He's one of the best starters in the game, so you can go ahead and crack their base. And I do love the card Ares. This blocks very well into their other cards that are like Maganak, Strike Dagger, and things of that nature. All their 3/1s and 3/2s. One card that I've learned how to play a little bit better throughout my time of testing these decks was Troa Barton. Now, this is one of those cards where you don't really want to ever hold this in your hand, but put this on anyone and take advantage of the actual main effect. I actually started using the main effect a lot, and I saw the win rate of this deck kind of shoot up because you're just getting that extra damage there. Now, if you're able to, of course, use Simultaneous Fire with Tallgeese, being able to breach 3 twice is awesome because it says during this turn. It doesn't say anything about during this one battle. One thing I do want to stress, guys, again, I know we have essentially a lot of pilots in all of these decks here. You don't want to wait for the play for their actual unit to show up to get the best play that you would usually get in a normal deck format. Don't wait for the Sandrock. Don't wait for the heavy arm. Sometimes treat them as stats. Sometimes do the math on your board. Use them as a buffer. Put them on your units if you feel like your opponent is going to attack into them and destroy them with what they have on the board. And if providing them with one more attack is definitely going to make it a harder decision for them, I would go ahead and deploy it that way. And this is kind of essentially goes for every deck that you play. All right, and here we have starter deck number 3, Zeons Rush. Obviously, we have Sinaju. It's kind of a given, right? Having During Pair, High Maneuver, being able to deal that 2 damage. But one of the cards I want to bring to your attention that's really good in this particular deck is actually the Goof. Dropping the Goof at certain times when your opponent doesn't have anything on the board usually, it's really good. Like, drop him early as possible, even if you can't get around morale. He feels kind of worse than a Maganek, and he costs a little bit more, but he provides you with that second body. Dropping 2 Goofs in one turn turns into a scary board for your opponent. Now, a lot of people tend to have different opinions about the 1-drops in Gundam because you can't like aggro your opponent's base. It almost feels like you're not doing anything. So let's go ahead and pretend that we're going to drop in Drax C, we're dropping Zaku 1, and the next turn we can follow up with the Gaza D Sleeves, which can drop down and immediately support one of our 1-drops with extra 2 attack and immediately breaking that shield there. Another card that you can actually go into is Indignation. Indignation is pretty much an action step command card where you can give a friendly unit plus 2 attack. So this come out of nowhere can help those 1-drops break that base. And you may not do this often, but Char Asimov, and I want you to pay attention to this one line on the card. It says, during this turn, this unit gains +1 AP. So think of Char as the only +2/+1 pilot card at level 3. And also do the math, because like, for example, if you need to do 5 attack base hit, you can throw him on something that has 3 attack already, like a Girazulu, or of course that Zaku 2. My personal opinion when playing this deck, for the most part, you cannot play it like hyper aggro. You're playing, but you have to play aggressively because you're going to gas out on the quality of your units over time. You don't want to wait too long. So go ahead and press your opponent's bases as much as possible. Only take the trade when it is necessary. I think it's unnecessary to do it when you're forcing your opponent to attack into your guys anyway. So they're going to get the trade on their turn. So you might as well go ahead and hit their shield. So hit their shield, they're going to attack to your guy, die. Next turn, hit their shield, they're going to attack to your guys, die. So play it that way. This is when I started actually getting the major amount of wins with this deck. All right, guys, here we have the Seed Strike deck. And the first card I want to talk about is one that's been a little bit rough to play. But over time, it became a better card. And at the same time, I might be playing it wrong. So in the comment down below, guys, if you know the judge rules around this card, please let me know. We have the Magic Bullet of Dusk. Hear me out, guys. It says choose one friendly unit that is level 2 or lower. It gains first strike. Now, obviously, we have in our level 2 range, we have the Strike Dagger. And we also have the Jin. And we have Miguel's Jin is actually the one he actually connects to. So that gives us a good amount of level 2. That's about 9 for this card to target normally. But the card that I want to bring your attention to is actually the Striker Pack. Yeah, some of you guys are raising your eyebrow like, okay, I know what he's getting at. Now, this card is phenomenal. It's probably one of the best cards in this deck. And they gave you 3 of them, which is pretty crazy. So let me just go over what this card does. So from the Burst Zone, it's just going to give you a 3/3 blocker, which is probably one of the best cards this card can actually produce. But otherwise, if you're playing it on your turn, it's not actual step, but on your turn, you get to choose one of 2 cards. You either get a 2/4 blocker or a 4/2 blocker. Listen up, guys. If you're playing Striker Pack against another Zeons Rush deck, you're going to want to play the 2/4 Launcher Strike. I found that to be the best. It can get actually multiple trades there, blocking their 3/2s, blocking their 2/2s, blocking their 1/2s, and being able to, of course, stay there again. Now, the 4/2 is usually the best choice for any other deck that you're playing. Now, going back to the Magic Bullet of the Dusk is this. If I play Sword Strike Gundam, it doesn't have a level on the tokens. Now, it doesn't even say level dot nothing. It just doesn't have a level. So I don't know where if the ruling says is this treated as level 0 or literally it doesn't even have the stat, so it can't be chosen. It happens very rarely still, but when we did it, we would essentially give first strike to our Sword Strike Gundam being a 4/2 first striker. So that play is insane. All right, and so I just want to bring out some key cards for the players who've never played this deck before and they just want to know. Strike Dagger is really good. He has a 3 attack. Essentially pay attention to any unit that has 3 in the attack there because we can essentially break that base really early. Now, we obviously have Ale Strike Gundam being one of the best cards in this particular deck here, but you only get two. The card that I really want to bring your attention to is actually the Aegis Gundam MA mode. I think this is actually the true boss monster of this particular deck here. You have a 3/4 with Breach 3. And of course, it can pair with Arthur and Zala, and just being able to go to a 4/6. Like I said before with Ariel, 4/6 is a crazy meaty stat to have in this particular starter deck. So you will see this guy trade at least twice, and having it with Breach makes it that much better. Like, I like seeing this card way more than I like seeing the normal Aegis Gundam. Yes, it has this cool thing where it can like hit your level 5s, but I would say yes, it happens sometimes. But generally, if you don't have that, and also if you don't have a way to give it extra plus attack at that time, then this card is just not as good. Now, to end off, I just want to talk about the pilots. We have Mula Flaga. He's obviously good. He's a removal card and a pilot card that also provides you +1 damage, so keep that in mind. We have Arthur Zala and Kira. Now, these two boys are really good. I like seeing them at all times. Their stats are flipped, so you have a 2/1 in Kira, and you have a 1/2 in Arthur. Kira is a little bit more parable. He can go to essentially anyone, providing that -2, and this is pretty much the best pilot, and possibly all of the starter deck meta, quite honestly. And Arthur Zala, just turning any of your Aegis Gundam into a pseudo removal spell. Think of this almost like a worse Armor Ray, where you're able to allow yourself to attack into something that you want to kill. So being able to choose your target is pretty good. Being able to choose that problem target, being able to get that one blocker out the way, being able to get a favorable trade immediately by dropping this guy on any of your Aegis guys. Alright guys, that's it for an analysis on the card. So if you liked the video so far, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And now let's go ahead and get to the spreadsheet so we can see what the actual numbers are. So here we go, guys. Here's the spreadsheet, and there's that 244 games played. Here are all the win rates between each matchup, and here are all the games that I played of each matchup, each being at least 20 games apiece. Now, obviously, you see the green here, guys. Starter deck 1 coming in at 60.66% win rate, and man, I know some of you are looking at this like, oh, obviously, the other guys have been saying this too, and they are absolutely correct. This deck has so much going for it, guys. What it really does, it plays like a really good control deck, and you can just set up so much favorable attacks to the point where your opponent's just going to gas out and you're just going to be able to win. Cards like Gun Tank are actually pretty crazy in this matchup here. I didn't mention it before, but being able to play Gun Tank, suspending one of your opponent's guys, and then if you have it, throwing on the Hayato, turning him into a 2/4, this automatically trades into any of the 3/2s in the game. So you get to kill their Maganax, you get to kill their Zord, and this guy stays alive. Being able to get that 2/4 stat is pretty good. And guess who also has 2/4 stat? The Gun Cannon has it built in. But you can play these boys back to back. You can play Gun Cannon first, play the Gun Tank next turn, drop their Strike Dagger, and turn into them. These boys are are tag teaming so many of these units out here. And of course, if you can make him into a 3/4 to be able to actually get that base kill in the beginning of the game. So that is just really good. So overall, if you play this deck like a control deck on the board, you're pretty much going to be doing very well. Now, obviously, you can see here, nothing is above 70%. So there is no tier 0 deck here. Damn near almost the same. We have the red-white coming in at 58.33% here. That Aegis Gundam being able to apply pressure as well as clearing their board, keep the pressure going, is really good. This deck has access to blockers. It has access to breach. It has access to -2 AP, has access to spreading damage. It has access to filtering your hand, although very slightly on all these aspects here. It has access to all those things. And even Mobius Zero comes in and does work again at that 2/4. 2/4 is a very significant stat line in this particular meta here. Throwing in Arthur Zala on this card makes it a 3/6, and a 3/6 can be a problem for a while. This deck can feel a little clunky sometimes, but you have to think of it this way. The white portion is generally defense, and the red is generally attack. But also make sure you're trying to apply as much pressure as possible, because it's going to be hard for your opponent to clear your stuff back. This is one of the decks where I thought at the beginning it was actually one of the worst ones, if not the maybe third worst. But after all the testing, it just kind of just shot up. As you can see here, it just pretty much dominates the green-blue matchup at 75% win rate. So if you're playing against the green-blue, you're pretty much going to do well. It has a 50-50 matchup with the other two decks, though. So you're going to have 50-50 with the red-green and 50-50 with the first one, which actually isn't too bad. So just play well, guys. But moving on to the next deck, of course, we have the red-green. Now, for a moment in the testing, this was actually the worst deck for a while, but it kind of shot up as the green-blue was just... We'll talk about that in a moment here. But the red-green deck essentially struggles against the blue-white. How about that, guys? Earth Federation taking on the Zeeks there. It does really good into green-blue at a little bit more than 50% here. We didn't do any of the same matchups as you can see here. There's no reason. You can might as well just think of that as whoever plays the best, whoever draws the best. But overall, like we mentioned before, red-green does have some heaters, but it also has some cards that don't really feel like they're doing too much, like the blue giant. Getting this card's action step is damn near impossible. It almost seems like this was supposed to be a green-white card, like it really wants to have the assistance of white in order for that effect to even happen. Yeah, it's a level 4/1 with the 1/1 stat. I do feel cool when I can actually use the action step and get a use out of this card, getting a trade where your opponent just doesn't deal any damage to you whatsoever. Yes, it's only 2 of these cards, but sometimes you're looking at him a little bit too long. So I would just go ahead and just drop him on any of your units. Just use him as a stat boost. Don't worry about waiting for him for an optimal use or even waiting for your goof. Just go ahead and put him on anyone, guys. Just get that +1/+1 stat boost there. And another thing is, yes, you do have full frontal, but technically it's weird because like your deck is also like kind of an aggressive deck, but full frontal cannot be played until level 6. So this sometimes becomes like a dead card. And sometimes I use it just to kind of keep my aggressors alive. If I'm swinging with them, I'll just throw it on him just to give a 2 defense buffer, so my opponent is less likely to attack into it, or they at least have to make a one-on-one trade rather than getting optimal trade there. So he becomes like one of the a little bit worse cards here. Yeah, if you get the full frontal on a Sinaju, you're having like a good time, right? But again, you only get 2 Sinajus, you get four of these cards, and he doesn't deploy until level 6. A lot of your guys are at the lower range. Generally, if you play an aggressive deck, you wouldn't play something like full frontal. You would pretty much just end it off with Star Assemble, and as you can see here, he's half the level cost. And as you see here, the red-green does have a 50% favorable matchup into red-white out of 20 games here, so that's not actually too bad. I thought it would struggle the same amount that it would with the blue-white, but it just struggles against the blue-white. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ever beat these decks with any decks you use, guys. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room here. And this is quite honestly very surprising to me. And this is why testing is important, because after some first initial testing, we didn't have a lot of data. We only played maybe like 10 or 12 games, but we came to the conclusion that the green-blue deck was the best one. And then after some thought, I was like, it does feel a little clunky. And there were some other variables in testing, such as, you know, fatigue, being tired, making a lot of wrong plays. At the end of the matches, we were having a lot of conversations saying, oh, we should have did this, we should have did that. So there was a lot of fatigue setting in. So, and then we were thinking like maybe, and it was like the green-blue deck was just kind of hard to get over. So that kind of data was kind of mute. It's like it wasn't really accurate because there was so many extra factors that we can't really quantify. But getting in a more stable setting here, we found out that this deck just doesn't do enough right now. My personal opinion, I feel like it does have the best boss monsters. So if you're able to take these boss monsters into the normal format, yeah, you're probably going to see Wing Gundam decks. Yeah, you're probably going to see Tallgeese, Oz decks doing very, very well. Maybe not all of Oz, because there's not a lot of Oz cards right now. But the Tallgeese itself with Zex Marquise essentially getting 2 draw cards is going to be pretty good. So let's just go ahead and look at its Axis Max up here. So we have Starter Deck 2 with about 40% win rate versus blue-white, which actually isn't too bad, but it's still less than 50%. So you can still get the win there. It does a little bit better against the red-green because we do have just bigger bodies and be able to get better trades there. But again, it's not too good. And then versus the red-white, that is just the most horrible matchup of all time. So if you're playing a green-blue deck, you pretty much don't want to see the Seed Strike boys. For some reason, that matchup was just very, very rough. Let's take a look at the deck here to see what's been going on with it. Now, in the beginning, yeah, you have some defenses through Ares and Tragos, but Tragos and Ares don't really defend too much, and they will only defend one time. Let's take a look at the level curve here for a second here. We don't really have anything in the level 3 zone, so we have this hump between level 2s and level 4 that we really have to get over. The only card that we have on the level 3 is the Bird Mode, which is a really good card. And sure, it gives us a ramp, but this isn't really a ramp deck. So when people say like the advantage of this deck is that it's a ramp deck, It's not a ramp deck. If you play green for Magic the Gathering, you know like you need to have a good significant amount of ramp in order for it truly be a ramp deck, and then go into who, right? Right now you're only going to go into Toggies and Wing Gundam, and there's only 4 of in this deck. Gundam Heavy Arms is pretty good to get into on that curve. Then of course you can play your Troll Barton and then get the attack. Being able to deal 1 damage to everything is pretty cool. It feels really awesome when it actually happens, but it doesn't kill everything. The only play that this is super significant in is getting rid of like your opponent's maybe demi trainers or Mobiuses that were for some reason sideways. Getting rid of your opponent's tokens that were played by the Goof or played by the Famal, or getting rid of the tokens that were created by like White Base if they're already in the gun tank mode. You can pretty much get a lot of plays here. This is technically the main boss monster of this deck, quite honestly, with guest starring Wing Gundam and Toggies. Now, a lot of the win came from keeping the Wing Gundam in your hand and drawing into a hero, or not even, just being able to just play him as soon as you can and just using him as a favorable attack target. Choose your attacks and be able to attack into whoever you want to. Those are the games that I started to get like the most wins from. Take a look at some of its non-unit cards. We have the Corsica base. Now, both of their bases is just pretty much like assist you in any kind of way. Granted, getting a 4/2 token is pretty significant, and getting 2/1/1 token at the later game is pretty significant, but this card cost a lot for just doing that at the time. And St. Gabriel's is pretty cool, but all it really is just kind of like peek at the top. You just kind of control your hand. Sure, that can always be helpful sometimes. That's pretty much all it does. So the bases are kind of mediocre here, and even the pilots, just I'm picking up pilots real quick, they are both during link pilots, so they really only get their benefit when they have their specific unit underneath it. Sure, you're going to find yourself putting Hero Yui underneath the bird mode more so than anything. Zex Marquise is pretty much probably going to be going under the Leo more than anything, and just becoming a 1-trade draw card, and you can't do that until level 5. So that's pretty much how you're going to be playing that card. Now, the Heroic Beginnings has a very similar play with Gundam MA form, putting any of the White Bay pilot in there. So not just Amuro Ray being able to get +1 draw card, but the Hayato as well getting a draw card, and the Kai getting a draw card. And sometimes I literally just do that, just throw that underneath the MA form, get that draw card. And that's kind of like what you're doing there with Zex, but you also have to win a fight, and you also have to attack into something that's also was already rested. And you can't really set up really good rest plays other than the 2 Siege Exploits that you have in the deck. So the pilots don't even assist you. They're not really as variable as the other pilots in other decks. Like, look at cards like Soletta, that's going to be essentially good anytime it attacks with any unit, just giving that money back and extending your plays. Amuro Ray being good to pair with literally anyone. Kira Yamato having that attack on any creature, being able to get favorable damage there. Alright guys, I can go on and on and on. If you haven't yet joined any of the starter deck metas and you're planning on doing it over the weekends, good luck to you guys. I hope you are able to grab at least the starter deck 1 or starter deck 4. You might as well look at them as the same win rate, guys. Those are pretty much the same. Alright guys, this data sheet right here took me forever to get to you. It took a lot of games. Obviously, 244 games. I am exhausted, but I wanted to get this definitive information instead of just looking at the cards after playing some actions and thinking like, I think this deck was good. And like I said, I did that before, and then my opinions changed once the numbers started rolling out.
All right, that's the breakdown. If you found this deep dive helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Gundam TCG content. And hey, if you're hungry for more mecha action, check out some of our other videos. I know life can be hard out there, guys, but keep your head up, keep moving forward, and most importantly, let nothing stop you. Peace out, guys.